I think I'm live here. Testing. Can you hear me? If you guys can hear me, please plop in a hashtag live or I can hear you. Sorry, I'm just a few minutes coming on late today. And I'm going to be honest, I'm a little bit running ragged. I haven't had a good night's sleep. Oh, I don't know what's going on with that. but yeah, I wanted to come in today and talk to you about why should you consider alternatives to traditional corporate funerals. That's going to be my topic today. I'm going to give you some tips on that, and I'm going to share a little bit about my personal experience and why I advocate these. Excuse me. So again, if you're just catching me, please pop in a hashtag live and let me know you can hear me, that I'm coming through well, and hopefully I'll be able to see your comments today. And if you catch me on the replay, hashtag replay. If anything I say today is resonating with you, or you're learning something new, hashtag AAA. I'm sorry, hashtag AHA. Aha. I would love to see if I'm resonating or if it's helpful to you. Please excuse me, my allergies. And let me know where you're watching from too this morning. And as always, please feel free to ask me some questions as I go too, because I'd love to you make it interactive. And even if you catch this on replay, if you got a question, plop it in there. I would be happy to come back to it. And always feel free to share your personal stories as well as I go through this today, and any examples, or if you have certain interests or certain concerns about this topic, please plop that in the comments, or as always, feel free to private message me. And leave those emojis, squash those buttons for me so the Facebook gods beam me up. And again, my topic today is going to be why should you consider alternatives to traditional corporate funeral? And I'm going to explain what I mean by that in just a second. And then I have some news of some things coming up soon that I want to talk about as well. If you don't know me, or you're new to Creative Memorial Planning Facebook group, or you're not in there yet, I'll plop that link in so you can join it. I would love to have you there. I'm Leigh Hodgins, and I host the Creative Memorial Planning Facebook group. And in my group, I help 50 plus adults explore alternatives that are earth friendly, cost reducing, and more personalized, as options in different options that are alternatives to traditional corporate funeral plans, or even heavily religious based funeral plans. Excuse me, I'm unable to talk very well today. For some reason, I didn't get enough sleep, so I'm going to try my best. Bear with me. But if you're interested in learning about this, I know this is a topic most people don't think about till it's kind of too late. And if you know my experience, I came into this unfortunately through tragedies, and then through helping other people through their tragedies. And I have learned a lot about what I feel is really essential for end of life plans. And I'm a huge advocate of earth-friendly, cost reducing and more personalized ways for planning your creative memorial, which is what I explore in more depth in my group, Creative Memorial Planning. But today I wanted to give you some ideas. Excuse me. And if you're interested in that too, I'm gonna plop in the link to my group. Would love to have you join that. And if you know somebody else, that you feel like would benefit from this info, I'm going to plop it in right now if I can technically do that. Oh, it's telling me no, I can't do that. Hold on 1 second. What is your problem? Interesting. Oh, I see what I did. Sorry about that. So there's my link. Sorry, told you, half awake. If you know anybody that you feel like would benefit from this info, please share that link that I just plopped in there with them. Or if you're curious about it, just click that link, answer 3 questions, and you're in the group. And in my group, I go into a lot more detail about these alternatives to traditional funeral plans, as well as their benefits and how I can help you as a creative memorial planning coach. And I go through lots of things in my group, just give you tons of free content on creative memorial ideas and these earth-friendly, cost-reducing, personalized alternatives. And also, if you have no idea even where to start with any of this, I'm going to plop in my creative memorial planning checklist. I'm going to drop that in the link right there as well. So, feel free to check that out. And I'm going to jump into today's topic, which is why you should consider alternatives to traditional corporate funerals. And again, as we go through, please show me hashtag live or hashtag replay, however you found me. Let me know where you're watching from and give me a hashtag aha if anything in here is resonating or you're learning something new. So, what are these alternatives? Alternatives for what exactly? You're probably wondering. And what is corporate funeral? So, let me get clear on some of this first. Excuse me. Having gone through lots of tragedies and helping other people through these sudden losses where there was no plan in place, I really learned all of this stuff the hard way. And what I've learned is that funeral homes, I don't call them funeral homes, I call them corporate funeral or funeral businesses because they are very clearly for profit. And I've discovered that there are ways that you can honor your loved one or leave a legacy in a much less earth damaging way, in a much more personal way, and in a way that doesn't put too much of a dent in the finances of yourself or your surviving loved ones. So when I say alternatives to corporate funerals, that's what I'm referring to, and more specifically, two aspects of it. First of all, you want to look at alternatives for handling the remains. And I advocate for doing this now, even though you think it's too early to do stuff like this. I am living proof, knock on wood, that, loss happens at times we're not prepared for sometimes. And it's going to happen, we're all going to die. We're all going to have to leave this world, and we're all going to experience a loss. So it's, in my personal experience, it's better to be prepared for it. So you want to think of two things when you're thinking about alternatives. One is how to handle the remains. And these are things that most people don't think about because, again, corporate funeral has kind of made it a mystery and, kept it kind of shrouded a little bit. And it's really not a mystery, and it doesn't have to be complex. And so this is what I do. This is how I help people. I educate you about it, and I help you map out your creative memorial plan. So one of the things you want to consider alternatives for is handling the remains. The other thing you want to consider alternatives for are these traditional funerals. And I'm going to give you some examples here in a second. Excuse me. But again, if you're learning anything, plop me a hashtag aha. Let me know hashtag live or hashtag replay. And any questions you have or concerns, drop that in the comments. I want to hear what you'd like to learn about and what you don't know about. So first of all, again, the reason I got here to the idea of alternatives is because I've helped a lot of people through it, and I've experienced it myself and had to step up to get through those situations. So what I've learned is that alternatives are more earth-friendly, dramatically so. And speaking of dramatic, they're dramatically cost-reducing than your traditional funerals. They're more gentle, and they're more personal ways for comforting surviving loved ones and for leaving a meaningful, loving legacy. So I found that, corporate funerals or even primarily religious-based funerals, they can be kind of abrupt and impersonal and sterile and even detached from the experience of surviving loved ones. And they're also, they generally tend to be very terrible for the planet, and they're excessively expensive. I'm not bashing, by the way, I'm not bashing all religion, because I feel personally that spirituality is a huge part of the end-of-life experience, but it's also very personal. And I feel that it's the spiritual or religious aspects being personal, they're also valuable for comforting the loved ones left when you're gone. However, and also for leaving your legacy, depending on what your spiritual beliefs are. But what I'm talking about in terms of alternatives to heavily religious-based funerals is I'm really talking about more when people lose sight of the people for the sake of the religious dogma or ritual. And so what I advocate and what I do as a creative memorial planning coach is I help you personalize your end-of-life plans that to include whatever your spiritual or religious beliefs are, if you want that included, and so that they are for the comfort of loved ones and not just for the sake of religious dogma itself. So in terms of going back to the, today's topic is alternatives to traditional funerals, you want to think of two things. What are alternatives for handling the remains, and what are alternatives for goodbye rituals? So I'm going to kind of morph these together as I give you a few examples from my own personal experiences. And I'm doing this because I'd like to give you just to get your ideas flowing and give you some ideas of things to work through. And if you have ideas, please plop them in the comments as well. So first of all, are you following along with me? Is all of this making sense? And if you have any questions, what are they? Plop them in the comments. Let me know what you're thinking about. What would you like to know about? Does any of this resonate with you? If so, hashtag aha. And let me know too if this information is helpful or valuable as I go through it. So the first thing I'm going to talk about are handling the remains. You want to think of alternatives to traditional funerals in the sense of you don't need the remains to be handled with open viewing caskets and burials in caskets that are elaborate and filled with toxic chemicals and materials. So an alternative, for example, when my brother passed away unexpectedly 10 days before he turned 29 in a car accident, he had already made it known that he wanted cremation because he was a huge nature lover, and loved hiking and all things outdoors, camping and stuff. We decided to honor who my brother was by honoring his desire to be cremated. Excuse me. And then so that's the first thing. That's one of the most earth-friendly options. Not the most earth-friendly, but it is earth-friendly. And of course, my brother didn't know about these other more earth-friendly options yet. And I think if he knew, he probably would have opted for them. But so the first thing we did is opt for cremation to honor his love of nature. And then we gathered together with loved ones in his favorite hiking spot to scatter a few of his ashes. And then later we had an outdoor memorial, again, honoring his love of nature. And we had singing, we had recitation of poetry. He was a poet, so we read some of his poetry. And we even shared plants with those attending so that they could, carry on his legacy with a tribute through a planting of something in their own gardens. So this is one way that you can use an alternative to traditional funerals. Another example is when my dad passed away 6 years ago. Having gone through, the loss of my brother, my dad decided to change his traditional funeral plans to a cremation option. And I think one of his biggest reasons for that was first of all, to honor my brother, of course, but also because he saw the excessive waste of cost with the traditional viewing at the corporate funeral and the staff and the facilities. It really wasn't necessary, and it cost a lot. So my dad was quite frugal. So he saw that, and he was influenced by my brother's nature option. So we followed my dad's wishes, and we had him cremated, and we scattered a few of his ashes at a horse farm that was had a personal connection for him, that was in his wishes to us. And then we preserved his remaining cremains in individual containers that my niece purchased for us, so that we could each, keep them, or we could do what we wanted to with it. So are you following along? Are these some ideas that you didn't know about? Are these things that you did know about? Is this making sense? Do you see how these are alternatives to a full-on traditional funeral? Do you have any questions? Does it resonate? Let me know if it's helpful or if this is valuable. And now I'm going to dig into my own preferences, as I've just recently completed updated my creative memorial plan. So first of all, I want to share with you a few alternatives that I considered that I didn't opt for, and why. And again, this, to me, all of this stuff is just a very personal decision. So there's no right or wrong here. It's just what you personally prefer, or what your loved ones would be comfortable with. So one of the things that I thought about was one of the newer, more earth-friendly, almost the most earth-friendly option, and it's called water cremation or aquamation. And I almost opted for that, but it is not available in Kentucky, where I have moved back. So if I had stayed in Florida, where I lived prior to this, I probably would have had that option because I think it originated down in Florida. Water cremation is one of the most earth-friendly options, and it's more earth-friendly than actual cremation or direct cremation because of the process and the way they break down the remains. But because I'm not in a state that covers that, I didn't want to, go through that moving around business. So another option I thought was water burial, because I came from, I didn't come from Florida. I lived in Florida half my life, and I love the ocean. I'm definitely a water sign, and I love the water. And I thought it'd be beautiful to have my family gather at a lovely, shore or beach, go out onto a boat and do a water burial, which needs to be done in a certain way, which I talk about in depth in my creative memorial planning group. So check that out. But then I thought about another option, which is the most earth-friendly option, I believe, and that's a natural burial. And a natural burial does not involve, caskets made with toxic materials. It involves potentially a casket that's made of earth-friendly materials like bamboo or seaweed or cotton even. Or you could use a cotton shroud or bamboo shroud, or you could even cover the remains with a sheet that is earth-friendly. A natural burial site is simply just exactly what it is. It's taking the deceased and naturally burying the body, on a rural property. It's usually not legal to bury it on a residential property. You have to kind of check your local laws. But on a farm, and my family has a farm in a rural area, or on a natural burial site, this is a really beautiful earth-friendly option. And I actually just found out a really cool, a cool place called Heartwood Preserve, which was a hop and a skip from where I used to teach in Florida, and it's on Starkey Boulevard. Excuse me. And actually, I'm going to have someone from that preserve speaking in my upcoming summit to give you a lot more info about it. But basically, it's a beautiful conservation site, and they do natural burials there. So that's a thought. But because my family is primarily now in Kentucky and Tennessee, I'm thinking what's more feasible and easier for my family members. And I decided that having them travel to either a water burial or to put my remains in a natural burial site in another state would be additional tasks and cost to transfer. And I decided, no, I'm going to keep it really simple for my loved ones. So it was a very close second option for me, but, I don't know when I'm going to go. So depending on my loved ones' physical age and condition, I just decided having a simple, direct cremation and returning the box of my cremains to them to do what they will with it is easier for them than meeting somewhere, since they all live in different states. And I didn't want to have a natural burial on my family farm because it's one family member's family there, and I didn't want to exclude my family members in another state. Trying to make it fair. I'm thinking about what's going to mean something to my loved ones and how that will impact them. So these are things, I'm just giving you my thought process because I kind of want to help you think about these things. So plot me at #aha if this is meaningful or helpful, or if it gave you something you didn't know about, or you're learning anything new. Is it helpful? And also I want to say, what is a direct cremation? Because I said that's my option, a direct cremation. Now, my brother didn't have a direct cremation. He had a cremation because up until that point, my parents they were not aware of the option of a direct cremation. And I think being influenced a lot by, as most of us are, by customs in society to have a traditional funeral with an open casket viewing at the funeral facility, that kind of influenced my parents back then. So we actually had an open casket viewing for my brother before he was cremated. Part of that is because it was such a shock, and and he was so young. I think we needed that. We needed to see his body. But I know now that there are alternatives that you can do, that still allow that kind of gentle process for absorbing the loss without the cost and excess and kind of, what I'm trying to say, sterility of the corporate world. So a direct cremation is when you don't opt for the casket or the viewing. You simply have the deceased remains transferred to a cremation facility, and then you receive the cremains back. You don't see the body as part of it. And that's actually kind of lends itself into the difference between a funeral and a memorial. because funerals typically show the body and memorials typically do not. There's usually either just the cremains and a photo or photo displays of the loved one at memorials versus funerals where they actually have the deceased body there for viewing. Just a little tidbit there. Um, so also as part of my end of life plan, because I'm a huge nature lover, if you see all the designs on my walls, I'm a nature photographer. That's one of my hobbies, and I've designed all kinds of products. I even have 2021 calendars now out with my nature designs and positive affirmations. So it wouldn't make any sense for me to not choose an earth-friendly option. So I'm leaving as part of my end of life plans with instructions to my loved ones. I'm leaving the information and the payment info about where my loved ones, if they want to, they can go to get a biodegradable urns with an amendable kit, so that if they want to plant a tree on their property, particularly like my family that lives on the farm, because ashes are not earth friendly or plant friendly, and you'll learn more about that in Creative Memorial Planning Group if you're interested in that. So I'm leaving information about if they want to plant some of my cremains with a plant, with a tree or in the garden, and where they can get a biodegradable urn with an amendable kit. I'm also leaving information about donation options to the local arboretum if they want to donate a tree planting or a garden planting there, or even just simply a plaque in my honor there, and or to the local state park. And I'm also leaving donation information if they want to make a donation to my particular spiritual organization, as I'm an SGI Buddhist. So if they want to donate in my honor to that. So I'm leaving all of this very detailed, all the information they need, so that when I'm gone, however that happens and whenever that happens, it's right there. It's easy. I give them very clear instructions. I almost said destructions. And they know exactly what to do, and they can do and I'm very clear to them, do what you are comfortable with. If you don't want to spend money on a biodegradable urn to plant something, keep the money for yourself as my gift to you. So I also opted not to use, as an alternative, not to use corporate funeral facilities or the staff, because it's costly and it's not necessary from my personal viewpoint. So I've already arranged, all the details for my goodbye ritual, for a private goodbye ritual with my personal preferences of things involved. And I can talk about that in another live, because I know this is getting long. But are you with me? Are you still following along? Have I lost you? Is anything resonating? Have you learned anything new? If this is helpful or valuable, please plop in a hashtag aha. Or if you've got a question about something you'd like to learn more about, please let me know. I just wanted to come on here and give you some ideas about what to consider for alternatives to traditional corporate funeral plans. These are not in any way exclusive. There are many more things that I talk about that you could opt for. And if you'd like to check that out, again, come check out my Creative Memorial Planning Group. There's tons of info in the units section and in the announcements section. You can just search, earth friendly or handling the remains or goodbye rituals, whatever you're interested in, just search for it. And if you're not sure how to even get started, please check the link I've plopped in the comments to get my Creative Memorial Planning checklist. It kind of gives you an overview of things that you want to think about to get started. And again, I invite you to come check out my Creative Memorial Planning Group. I've plopped that link there. And if you want to talk with me, I offer a free discovery call to find out if my program, Explore, Choose, and Plan Your Creative Memorial, is a good fit for you. And I'm going to plop that link in there as well. And if you're interested, it's free. So just, click the link, and it helps you just schedule a time to meet with me, to talk with me about anything. And also, I guess that's it. I just wanted to, I do want to say, I have an upcoming Sunset Summit that I'm going to be hosting in the Creative Memorial Planning Group. So if you know anybody, or if it's you yourself that is a grief counselor or a grief hypnotherapist or a transition doula or a memorial celebrant or people that help with legal or health directives, I'm not looking for, insurance representatives or pre-planners or anything like that. But if you know of the others that I just mentioned, or even caregiver supporters or palliative care workers, I'm going to be featuring a lot of these different experts in those fields to educate my audience on things like these end of life topics that will really be helpful to you. So if you know anybody that is in one of these areas, or if it's you, please drop me a private message or drop your link in the comments. Or if you know somebody, tag them in the comments if you know somebody that might fit that bill. And that's it. I just wanted to come in and give you a ton of info on alternatives that you could be thinking about, and I wanted to give it to you from my personal experience. I thought that might be more meaningful. I don't really tend to share too much of my clients' personal details because it's a very delicate, personal topic. But if this was useful, please comment and let me know. And if you'd like more info about these alternatives or any particular topic, please let me know that too. Let me know if you're gaining value from my presentations and if there's anything specific that you want to learn about. And thank you for your long attention as well. And I hope you're having a wonderful day and have a great rest of your week. Thank you so much.